My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Cartoonist Kayfabe weekly shoot for the weekend of what?
June 21st.
It's our Heroes Con wrap-up show, man.
Yep, I'm still in recovery mode.
Can you believe it's almost been a week since we were down there? I mean, basically, today's Thursday. We're shooting this thing on a Thursday. We traveled down there on the Thursday. It felt like yesterday.
That's such a whirlwind show. I always feel that way. I get to the end of day one, and it feels like I've been there a week. I get to the end of the last day, and it feels like I just arrived. I don't understand it, but there's something weird with time there.
A lot to unpack, man, in our fair travels this past weekend, man. Nothing too eventful on our ride down there. It was more just you and I batting ideas back and forth because we had 4 giant panels, plus we had a lot of stuff afterward each day that we were accumulating for the channel that will slowly unveil over time, man.
Yeah, that feels like a real work weekend because it was long days.
Yeah,
but that's what we go for. So
we got some stuff done, man. We knew we were in the right place once we pulled into the loading dock, brought one handful of boxes to the table, and saw what, 5 Kayfabe shirts?
That's the best feeling. That was awesome. Kind of amazing. Not sure what to expect from this weekend, but man, whatever I was hoping for, I feel like there was a list of stuff I wanted us to do. Definitely hoping to see a good turnout with Kayfabers. And man, we crossed everything off the list pretty much. People were there in support the whole weekend from load-in day until the day we left.
It wasn't even a day where people could peacock and show off their funky wares, man. So I saw some people wearing Kayfabe shirts every single day, the same guys.
Yes.
You know, there might have been a dozen of those dudes who had a Kayfabe shirt for every day, man.
I'm happy to say they were different shirts.
Yes. And in fact, we produce a shirt, we upload it to Spreadshop. We don't necessarily see it unless we ask for a sample. So there were a few shirts that I saw in the wild for the very first time. Your Rob Liefeld anatomy shirt, never saw that before.
Yeah, it's great to see that, and I think every shirt that we've made was visible over the weekend, which is really cool.
We had our over-under bet. We couldn't agree on how many Kayfabe shirts we saw.
Lost count on day one.
Yeah, somewhere around 100. And several dozen of them showed up on Friday. That was our first live Kayfabe weekly shoot. And we should say, all of this material was recorded. Our homeboy Adam shot this stuff 2-camera shoot in some cases.
Our live show, I counted 6 cameras. I don't know who all was filming at that show, but that was nuts, man. That's a WWE match.
I got the scoop, and several of those cameras were Heroes Con cameras, but there were definitely 2 cameras for that will be cut into the audio that was captured by Adam, and
I feel like we recorded about 8 or 9 hours worth of video there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we're going through that now. Adam's going through it now. I'm excited to get that out and share it, and that'll probably be trickling out over the next several weeks as we get through editing and just posting at a somewhat regular schedule with this stuff.
Let's talk that first Kayfabe weekly shoot, man, because like you and I, we get together at lunch, we kind of like come up with we settle on the bullet points of what it is we're going to be discussing. We get out there. Basically, this is our first public appearance since we created the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Like, we've been in our holes for about 8 months, finishing books and just producing content for the channel. So this was our first public exhibition, first live Kayfabe weekly shoot, and we basically handled it the way that you and I would handle a shoot here. We didn't build in any room for standing ovations and crowd response at that very beginning piece, man.
Yeah, and we should say thank you to everybody that came out, because it was a Friday afternoon panel. Not always the best day for a panel. You know, a lot of people aren't even at the show on Friday. We had a great turnout for that panel, so thank you all, everyone who made it to that.
It'll be fun to pay attention to the video on that thing because, you know, we open up the thing and then there's that response and you and I have no idea what to do with applause and shit like that.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. If you're going to not be prepared for something, applause is a nice thing to not be ready for.
Agreed, man. We told some con stories. We've been going to that show for a dozen years, maybe, at least a decade. Stories abound from our travels down there. Obviously, we're sitting at the table for the bulk of the day.
Yeah, here's something that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
what comes next is lots of people coming through talking about the show. Lots of new faces for me. People would come up and, you know, they first time they're coming up to me because of the show, you know, and asking for samples and what do I recommend, you know, for my books. Awesome. But I was asking everybody, how do you learn about the show? And man, every time somebody answered, it was word of mouth.
Yes.
So keep doing this, you know, keep sharing the show, guys. If you're enjoying the show, if you learned about it from word of mouth, man, share it, post it. We post so many different kinds of videos, which is another thing I heard lots about, you know, everybody had a different favorite.
Yeah.
Process stuff, book clubs, you know, the weeklies got a good review. So, you know, when you find a video that you like, keep sharing it. Share it with your friends, share it at the comic shop, because that is paying off. That is the thing that I heard more than anything else, is just word of mouth, man. So, you know, everybody's connected with comics online at this point. If you're digging the show, let somebody know.
This might have been my sort of best show. Certainly busiest, man. There wasn't one moment of downtime. There was a moment where I saw this giant line. You know, when I had like 15 seconds, 30 seconds to take a powder, I look up, I see this giant line. And I'm like, if this line is there for Jim Rugg, I'm quitting the channel. It's over for me, man, because it's definitely not benefiting me in any freaking way. But that was for our homeboy Scotty Young.
Yes.
and Thursday night, if you think about it, it was inhumanly busy for us, because not only did we take 8 hours to drive down there and load in boxes, and we had so much stuff to even bring up to the hotel room, but we shot 2 hours worth of video that night after dinner, man. Jason Latour shoot interview, Scotty Young shoot interview. I wanted to get hold of both of those guys at some point that weekend, and it just so happened that those dudes were together, man. So I scooped them both up and brought them up to the hotel to shoot those shoots, man.
Good talkers, guys that we've been talking to for years. It's nice, you know, we talk to a variety of people at this show in terms of interviews, and it's some people first time really talking with them, but some of these guys we know for years, like Latour and Scotty Young. I'm excited to share all of this stuff, you know, like great hearing them tell their stories.
These are pretty much the highlights of the Friday, man. Should we segue into Saturday?
Let's do it. That's the big day.
It is. We should say, after we do our weekly shoot, you know, you sneak off, you get lunch real quick, because it's uncool to be away from the table for too long, man. You don't want to keep your adoring public waiting. But we get lunch right afterward, and it was crucial for us to stop by the table of the Dark Prince of Comics, Tim motherfucking Vigil, because this is something we've been quiet about for about a month and a half, because it was just something that we could not control. But I was setting up a Tim Vigil shoot interview for that much time. I spoke to Tim many times at shows, very monosyllabic, rarely would look up at me. I considered him to be an X factor when it came to our weekend. I didn't know if I would be able to count on his word, just because I didn't know the guy.
Exactly, right.
And we went down to the table right after our weekly shoot. Super gracious, very magnanimous. Took a Kayfabe sticker and wrote his phone number on it, man. A girl never made me that excited to give me her phone number, man. And he's like, yeah, let's not do it tonight. I'm going out for dinner with some guys. We'll do it tomorrow. Asked him, Tim, what are you doing for dinner tomorrow, dude? He said, nothing, man. You're coming with us. On us, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely on my, I hate to rank this stuff, but I mean, like, top of the line. I've been following him around like you at cons. I've talked to him probably since I was a teenager at these shows, and you don't get a lot back. I haven't gotten a lot back in the past, but also a guy that there's not a lot out there on him.
There are no major interviews at all. We have it.
Yes.
We have the big interview, and we will be presenting the Kayfabers like about a 1 hour and 51 minute shoot interview. We're going to post that primetime Sunday night and let it live for a couple of days on the Kayfabe channel. It's the only place you're going to get such an extensive interview.
Saturday, let's start at the beginning.
Let's do
Saturday's nuts.
Let's do it.
You wake up Friday, you know, we go to bed, midnight or something, after a very busy day, a live episode, couple of interviews at night, very full day. Saturday, wake up, we have 2 panels scheduled. One, we're going to be interviewed about the show. That went great, fantastic, good turnout. The next one, we're going to talk to Bill Sienkiewicz.
Bill motherfucking Sienkiewicz, man.
And I mean, another guy in my pantheon, you know, we've been preparing for that. We've been open about that. That was scheduled. So we knew that was going to take place barring, you know, a plane or something delayed. And so a lot of, you know, there's pressure in these things. You never quite know how they're going to go. We've got lots of notes, but, you know, these interviews are, you're in the moment and you're trying to stick with them. You know, whenever, if he veers one way, you adapt. And went well. It was great to sit down with him.
Good talker. We received probably our best feedback of any of our programs from the Bill Sienkiewicz piece. A lot of people say it might be the best Bill Sienkiewicz panel ever. I tend to agree because that's me. But he is a really, really good speaker. This isn't his first rodeo. He was very forthcoming with a lot of the stuff that we presented. And a big challenge for us was to not produce the questions that are just the standard customer chatter. This is Cartoonist Kayfabe, you know? Like, we got to get into some nitty-gritty. And he was very honest about a lot of his responses. You know, he had a lot of good intel for us with that piece, man.
So you come out of there, go back to the table for a couple of hours. Man, at a typical con, that would have been my day.
Yeah.
But that's when we're just getting started because, as you said, we had made plans the day before for Tim Vigil dinner. That was great. Went great. It's nice to do those dinners. It's a chance to sort of like talk openly. I think you earn a person's trust that way. We were talking about some of his artistic influences, talking about comics, man. And you know, it's the universal language at these shows. I feel like that's what's come out as long as I've been going to shows, is like you can sit down with these guys who are masters or from another generation and you still find that common language pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And the real challenge with the dinner, obviously, I think this is a tool in our arsenal at this point. We used it, we deployed it on Ron Friends.
That's true.
Got him warmed up. And Vigil, tough nut to crack, potentially, because of past experiences, man. Got him in that car, sequestered him away from the show, promised free food. The way to a man's heart is through his tummy, they say. Promised a man a good meal, and we sat there and we talked that real shit, and it wasn't sycophantic bullshit, you know, Tim, you're our god, how do you feather, like, none of that stuff. But here's the challenge. You want to immediately, desperately launch into every question you ever wanted to ask Tim Vigil. He's there. He's right there in your grasp, man, and you could ask him anything you want. But we dampened that for that part of the experience because we wanted to present the real deal for the cameras, man. So you asked the semi-banal, yo, Tim, how many long boxes you got, man? See, that's my go-to. That's my go-to. And with certain people, the other go-to for me is, so which artist editions do you have? You know, you can really, that's the icebreaker. And one of the interesting things that we discovered was some of the more modern cartoonists that he looks at. And it's not on our shoot interview, so if you want to drop that dime.
Yeah, Joe Madureira.
Yeah.
I was shocked when he pulled that name out.
Yeah, so was I, until I looked at some battle chasers and saw the bust line, the bra size of some of the girls, and then it all made sense because Tim Vigil is a recognized guy. Like, people who are Faust fans know what he looks like. So when you were figuring out where to park the car, a very busy area where we were at, there were Tim Vigil sycophants who were coming up to the table, shaking his hand and stuff. And this one guy had like an Adam Hughes, like Scarlet Witch shirt or something. And you just saw Tim Vigil staring at it like, I like your shirt. So after I thought about it and processed what he said, because I would have thought maybe he would have maybe said Ben Mara or Josh Simmons or somebody like, but like Joe Madureira, very polished. But it all made sense after a certain point.
So dinner goes pretty well. We go back to the hotel, go to the bar with him to get him a drink.
Very wisely, like I needed to run upstairs and prepare the cameras, get everything ready because I didn't want to waste 1 second of the man's time. He's down there to make money, and a part of like his income stream is doing commissions for people. So I didn't want this dude, as the great Gorilla Monsoon said about Jake the Snake Roberts, no wasted movement. But you very wisely, because it didn't feel like it was going to be real until we hit record. And even more than that, it didn't feel like it was going to be real until we brought the damn footage back and made sure that it was okay. Some glitch didn't happen. Let me produce the thing. I'm very happy to report that we edited the thing. We presented it, like we processed the video. It's all good. I watched it 3 times already, but he was still an X factor. We were still waiting for like some kind of like Tim Vigil moment or something. We didn't know what that was, you know. Like these comics are like, they look like they're from a madman, but as we got to know the guy, just a dude, man, and a pretty respectful guy. We watched him like a hawk until we got him to the room, just in case if he veered off down some other dark corridor and we lost it. You know, we lost the dude, man. So very wise that you hung out with the dude while I ran up there, man, so that you could pull him back to the room. I go upstairs in order to prepare the cameras and stuff, and we're also staying with Chris Pitzer, publisher of Ad House Books. I have to take a whiz. I knock on the bathroom door at the hotel room. Chris is in there, and you know, he's cleaning up or whatever. Man, long day at the con. Processed, like reconstituted air, like you feel grimy.
Sure.
After a day, he was in there. He was cleaning up, taking a shower or something. But he heard me, and that's all he heard.
Right.
Eventually, you guys come into the room.
We sneak in. Our chair is the furthest away. It's like back against the opposite wall. Tim goes, sits in the chair, spotlight on him. We're about ready to go.
And out comes Chris Pitzer with no shirt on, super tall, super broad, very hairy chest. And he was not expecting these guys to be here. But Tim Vigil, he's been around the block, and it was just like another day at the con to him. So there was this big naked man standing there, this big bald naked man who's like, "Oh, hi, Tim." And he just goes, "What's up, dude?" Like, it was cool.
Yeah, he no-sold that shit. It's amazing.
And then like, I just like, you know, trying to be an empathetic person, just normally as I went to the bathroom, I like popped out and was like, "It's not like that, Tim," because it was almost like we sicked the gimp from Pulp Fiction on him, like it was all a ruse, and maybe it took a few extra seconds for whatever we sprinkled into his drink or put in his burger patty to like kick in before we unleashed the big guy on him. But he's like, "What's up, dude?"
Yeah, he was a totally cool customer. And man, when we hit go on that camera, it came alive.
From word go at dinner, I felt like as long as we got this together, as long as we got him in front of the camera, it was going to be good. And he even had like charm reserves in the tank, man. So when we hit that record button, it's on and popping.
I could not be more delighted with what we got from him. As you said, you know, dealing with him at cons over the years, you don't get a lot back. Not a lot of conversation. And just if he was willing to go in front of the camera, it was going to be, we get what we get. You know, if that's the personality that comes out, so be it. And he seemed ready to go, man. We get into his history, his processes, you know, different experiences throughout a 35-year career in comics. Like I said, I could not be happier with it.
I would call it a career-spanning interview. And in preparation for that, from talking with him in the past, from seeing the very little video content that exists with him online, I was strategizing, and one of the contingency plans that I was putting in place was the shotgun question. I've known him to be pretty monosyllabic in the past, yes, no responses, very curt, very short stuff. So I always wanted to have another question in the chamber ready to go just in case we got that monosyllabic stuff. And maybe for one or two things we got that, but he really expanded upon a lot of things. At the end of the day, I have very few questions that I regret not asking. I hit almost everything I went in there looking for. And some of the stuff he just proactively answered within other questions too, which was really great, something that I didn't expect.
Yeah, I can't wait to share it with everybody, man. This feels like a high moment in terms of the show. You know, doing this show is a reason to track down a guy like Tim Vigil, and I'm just excited to share it. You know, it went as well as can be expected, better than can be expected, and I think that if you're a fan of this show, you're going to be real excited by these 2 hours.
And you know, he's known to be pretty introverted, and he And he admits this, he proactively admits this. But toward the end, when we were getting to the end of our list, it was time to wrap it up. And he was still ready to go. He was like, what, man? Like, want to talk about evil? Like, like all kinds of shit. But it's about as comprehensive as it could get. I think if we captured 2 minutes more, it would have resulted in filibuster and would have been unnecessary for the germane topics required by Cartoonist Kayfabe, man. We hit everything. Silver Wolf. We hit the creation of Rebel Studios, his relationships with David Quinn, Tim Tyler.
Joe Vigil.
Yes. He has a sister. Who'd have thunk it? His mother's response to his artwork is in the shoot.
Yes. And his opinions on Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation.
And he ain't playing. Let's get a body language expert to just see how he pivots in the chair, because I think that felt truthful. Felt truthful and honest to me.
Yeah, so that'll be coming up.
Yeah, Sunday. This Sunday, we're definitely gonna post that thing, let that live for a little while, and spread the word, man. This is the only, like, Gary Groth never got a 50-page Comics Journal interview with the guy. This is the one-stop shop.
I think this is the interview that's going to make Gary jealous.
Potentially. Maybe not. So after that, it's midnight, and we are so excited, man.
Wired.
Totally wired, adrenaline flowing, because it could not have gone better. And that's when you go down to the lobby and maybe see a friend or two. You know what I mean? Because we've been stuck at our tables, which is the quality problems. You know what I mean? It's nice to have like a line of people and constant flow and all of that. But it is nice to see some of these people outside of Instagram posts every now and then, man. So that was basically how the last night kind of like powdered out. Is like, let's go down to the lobby, man, decompress a little bit. We know that there are Vigil fans out there, and we have to like immediately share this experience that we just had with guys like Keenan Marcia Keller, Tom Neely, cartoonists who make the Humans.
Yeah, I think they thought something was wrong with me. I was going outside to call my wife, and they were coming in, and I think my eyes were just like bugged out from a couple hours of just intense focus.
I think so too, because as you were going out and those guys were coming in, they then saw me, and they were like, "You too! We just saw Jim!" And I don't know how gigantic my eyes were and how googly-eyed I was, and the smile on my face from ear to ear, man. But it was a heck of a night, man. Heck of a night, and it was one of those important things that makes me very glad that you were there, makes me very glad that Chris Pitzer was there. We each have different things to take away from it, and I've traveled the world by myself a lot, and I forget a lot of shit that happened. You need another person there to help remind you about some of the extra things that occurred, man. And I think this is like one of those unforgettable Comic-Con experiences, high up there on my list in my whole career. Might usurp Dan Frega taking me around to all of the Extreme Studios locations.
High praise indeed.
Sunday. What happened Sunday?
Sunday we have a panel, Action Auteurs, with Chuck Forsman and Michel Fiffe.
Yes.
Another well-attended panel. Great questions from the crowd. I'm delighted by our fans. They ask good questions. They're engaged. They come out in force. All awesome. So that was a fun panel. We've known Michel and Chuck for 10 years or something. Always fun to talk comics with them. Making comics, reading comics, all of it, and fun to do it on a panel, something that we can record and share with the wider audience.
We've seen examples of, let's call it the kayfabe effect this past weekend, and some of that was on display at the panel because I had to, like a dentist, pull teeth from all of you guys to just pull out your little comic book wish lists.
This is an amazing.
And just share, is a question to ask, man. What comics are you on the hunt for, man? There are dozens, if not 100 vendors downstairs. More comics than you can imagine. What are you searching for? What were you looking for? Because it might show up.
Yeah, Canadian Ninja.
Canadian Ninja. You were unsuccessful in that attempt at this festival. Perhaps we have to go to Halifax, Nova Scotia to find this.
Coming soon.
Fiffe pulls out his list. he was looking for, I believe it's Captain America, is it Annual 8?
That's the one.
The one with
Wolverine,
Captain America on the cover, Mike Zeck. He was so nervous about mentioning that because he thought that people were just going to suck those up, thinking like, oh, if Fife wants it must be a good comic. We encouraged him to say the words, man. He did it. And what happened to the dude when he went back to his table?
Great Instagram post of what he got at Heroes Con. Not one, 2 Captain America Annual number 8s. And this is Sunday afternoon, man. There was not a lot of window for people to go find this book for him. But two Kayfabers bring that back to him. Fantastic. That's such a great comic story to me.
It's the Kayfabe effect. You know, like we've seen it on display many times, man. I had this dude drop off like 5 Mirage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle trade paperbacks.
That's a pretty good score.
Yeah, and it's like the Kayfabe effect is you mention the comic, it somehow materializes in your life very soon after, man. That's what the gracious brain trust seems to offer, man.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What a network.
Forsman talking a little bit about his sort of grassroots. I think that was a common thread between all of us, the fact that we started at the Xerox level and graduated into like the different vestiges that we now feel, man. And I met Chuck for the first time down there at Heroes Con when he was but a lowly Center for Cartoon Studies student when he was producing Snake Oil mini comics. So that dude's career has grown leaps and bounds. Same with Fife.
Yeah, both of those guys, they're ambitious and they're smart and they just keep pushing. They keep doing different things, different ways to get their books out there, different ways to connect with their audience, different ways to make the comics they want and to find an audience for those comics. You know, I think both of those guys have been inspirations to me in that regard, and it's awesome. You know, we meet a lot of cartoonists, and there are a handful of guys who really kind of push themselves, push distro, push whatever it takes to make personal work and to connect that to an audience. And it's not everybody. That's a small number of people that check off all those boxes, and those guys have been doing it as long as I've known them.
The show winds down on Sunday, and it really does feel like, I was going to say, like, when it comes to be around 10:30 at night at Kennywood Amusement Park, but choose whatever amusement park you wish, man. Six Flags, whatever, man. Cedar Point, I don't know what's out there. But it does. There's this vibe of like, oh, it's almost over, you know? But we must thank the great Shelton Drum, the proprietor of Heroes Aren't Hard to Find comic shop, who is the instigator, the grand poobah of Heroes Con. And he invites us to the shop afterward for kind of like a debriefing session, the cool out party, man, to just kind of like decompress a little bit, drink some Pepsi, cool out. This is your opportunity to see some faces that you might not have been able to see during the festival, man. And it's always a beautiful event. I was talking with Fife there, and this one dude comes walking by, needs to use the bathroom. And the bathroom is always a premium. You know, there's always a line. You have to anticipate when you think you may need the bathroom, right, and maybe just get in line. And Fife lets the guy know where the bathroom is and everything, and does a double take, and he's like, "Oh, that was Kevin Nowlan," you know. And Kevin goes into the bathroom, and the entire time we're like little girls, man. We're like trying to figure out the way to get this guy to come back to the hotel room so that we could put the camera on him. I think on an earlier Kayfabe shoot, we were putting the call out, like, if anybody knows Kevin Nowlan, have this dude get in touch. Like, we desperately want to have a shoot interview with him, man. Put him in front of the camera. Yeah,
you're on notice, Kevin.
He comes out of the bathroom, and I pursue it, you know, like I ask him, Kevin, man, you're heading back to the hotel, so am I, man. Can you come up? Like, we started this YouTube channel, it's gaining some popularity. Can we interview you for about an hour? And he just withers. You know, he's like, that would crush me. Like I'm not that guy, you know. But the fun thing was, you never take for granted that people know who the heck you are, you know. And he was like, "Oh, you're Ed Piskor, the guy who doesn't follow anybody on Twitter." So it's a no-go, man. So I throw the Hail Mary pass, which is sort of before that, we were talking about process and stuff. He asked me about the X-Men comic, and I was like, man, I'm a student of your philosophy in as much as I letter my comics by hand, I color my own comics. The division of labor is very clear. Eddie does everything on his fucking comics, and so that was established. The Hail Mary pass was, Kevin, one of the things that I think we would have been talking to you about if we had you up there in the room. I think we would have been talking about like that arcane era where one had to cut their own color separations, because there were many cartoonists like a Klaus Janson who would color his comics, but that would be providing guides for the separators. Who the urban legend is, it was like a house in Connecticut, and it was employed fully by Connecticut housewives who were in charge of cutting these color separations for both Marvel and DC, which is very interesting. They all went to the same house and output the files. But he's like, I see what you're doing, man. You want me to stay here for another 45 minutes. and then he basically did just that. And he hung out, and he was talking about, like, that was the start, like talking about cutting the color separations. And he said the thing that I actually forgot about for so long, because we were trained on that stuff at the Kubert School. And this is very true. Like when you're cutting those color separations, you guys could see a screen tone demo that Jim did not too long ago, man. And see how kind of flimsy that stuff is. A lot of commenters were like, "Oh, that looks too hard," or like, and it's like, that's fucking fun. Like I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but there is one danger, especially if something's going to see print. Now you're cutting around the shape of a drawing, and sometimes there may be a jagged edge, or sometimes it might be a very, very small piece, man. So you cut these little jagged edges, and you hear like a little, and there's a chunk missing. You're looking on your Xerox, you're looking on your hands, you're looking everywhere for this little piece, man.
And you're cross-eyed from already staring maybe through a light table with these patterns.
And he told us more than one story about seeing the final book in print and seeing a little purple square. Like, it becomes very apparent once those black dots are associated with the magenta, cyan, or yellow plate and show up as a field of color that was unintended on, say, in his case, a Comics Journal cover from the 1980s, 86 or so.
Yeah, it's so much fun to hear him tell those stories, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get some of that on video at some point. But what a craftsman.
The trick is dinner.
You might be right.
We got to take the dude out to dinner, man, and ply him with those just ease him up. That's the move.
Yeah. We can also, failing that, court him on a panel.
I doubt that.
Another option.
I doubt that, because if you're afraid to come in front of I've never seen a Kevin Nowlan panel, first off, and if you're afraid to sit in a room with two dudes with the camera right there, something tells me, and the way that he wilted in front of my face, something tells me that he might be a little nervous sitting in front of.
Well, I'm not giving
people.
up hope yet, Ed.
No, me neither. The dinner's the key. The dinner's the key, man. What do you got going on this weekend?
This weekend is ALA in Washington, D.C. I'll be signing Saturday at the Little Brown booth. I'll be signing arcs of Plain Janes. I don't know how many of those we have, so I'll be there, I think, 1:30 to 2:30. If you want to get one of those signed, show up at 1:30. And then I'll be signing at the Image booth on Sunday from 2 to 3, signing some Street Angel stuff, promoting the next Street Angel book. And I will have prints of both of those things. So if you're at ALA, I'll be in Artist Alley when I'm not at Little Brown or at Image. Come by. You can see what I have coming out for basically the next 6 months.
We probably covered this in a previous Kayfabe Weekly shoot, but don't want to take for granted that everybody saw every shoot, man. And I think we accumulated a fair number of new viewers. What's ALA?
I don't know what those letters stand for,
That's
but it's
fair.
Something library associated. Mm-hmm. So it's a big annual event for librarians all across the country. They converge on one city, big convention center. And it's basically to help librarians know what's coming out, what to order, possibly talk to the authors, maybe to have them visit the libraries. But it's like a comic book convention except for libraries, librarians, book publishers. And it's a cool show, man. I went to one in Chicago 2 years ago to promote Street Angel. It's great. It's a different atmosphere than a comic book show.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's book lovers, and comics have been sort of expanding their footprint in the libraries in the last decade or two, and librarians are open to them. So it's really great, and it's. I read a lot of books from the library growing up, so I love interacting with the libraries. I love the idea that somebody can find my books in libraries, and that's what this weekend is for me. Is just talk to as many librarians as I can and get these books to as many potential readers as possible through libraries.
I always have a ball when I'm out there in DC for these literary events that seem to surround the Library of Congress, and I can't be more thrilled to talk to librarians. There's an energy and an enthusiasm that comes from the library circuit that really doesn't exist in the comics world, and I would suggest that it's libraries who are like kind of unsung heroes in comics culture by sort of breaking down some barriers and getting us more space in the library system, figuring out how to best catalog the material and come up with some general consensus on how to accomplish that, because that had to be invented within basically the past 20 years. Which books do you put in a teen section? Which books do you put in a kid section? What goes to the regular graphic novel section? This is something that has to be sort of agreed upon in a way to have some sort of standardization. And they've been doing a lot of heavy lifting in the past 2 decades to get this stuff in there. And that is the entry point for many people into the world of comics. It's not the fucking Avengers Endgame.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you see it, you see it with just how much comics have sort of expanded, both in terms of publishers that are offering them, but subject matter, intended reader audiences. I credit libraries with almost all of that. They've really, really championed comics, and I think they see the interest. They're able to track what's being checked out. And there's different pockets of the country where graphic novels do better, from the library point of view. So it's definitely something that's been a huge benefit to Cartoonist and to comic publishers.
I look forward to the next Kayfabe shoot to hear about the experience, man.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share all of that. Like I said, Chicago 2 years ago was awesome, and I expect this weekend to be more of the same. I made some prints for it too. So librarians that are watching, come by. One of the prints I had in Chicago was Book Lovers. It's a couple of people embracing almost like a romance comic in the book stacks of a library. And I've made a sequel to that, Book Lovers 2. It's very much like a romance comics cover. And I will have prints of that at this convention. I made it specifically for ALA. So come on out and grab one of those if you're a librarian who loves comics.
My last issue of X-Men comes out next week. And I'm going through a lot of sort of emotions through thinking about the whole entire process, and just thinking about day one and thinking about when the first issue came out, right? So when the first issue was about to be released, it was the wintertime of whatever year that was, two years ago, I guess. This has been a 3-year process, this comic. And the movie that was being released and promoted pretty heavily at that moment was The Disaster Artist, the James Franco flick about the movie The Room, and that director Tommy Wiseau. And the flick, The Disaster Artist is about this movie The Room. I sort of bypassed that. When I was I wasn't in the cult of that, or
Right.
I'm clearly on the record many times saying fuck your irony bullshit. I'm not gonna watch anything because it's so bad it's good. You could suck my balls, basically. Because by virtue of that movie coming out and just hearing this thing, The Room is in the air and all that, I watched the movie. I watched The Room. I read the book. I got a lot out of the movie, and a lot of it is self-awareness, and you need to be a heavy editor, and you got to have good people around you who can be honest and junk like that. But it was the worst time for that movie to come out because I was it made me incredibly insecure about the comic. At that point, before it came out, I was working on it for a year or so already, meant to just get that accumulation of work done to the point where Marvel's okay, we could put these things out every 6 months or whatever it was. Nobody's seen it. The only people who saw it were you, Tom, very, very few people. And you guys will give some feedback, but I've never received like very critical feedback from any of you guys. And I felt really insecure. Like after, like I'm like, is this The Room? Like, is this comic my version of The Room? Because he did his best to make the best movie that he possibly could, and I really did the best that I could. Anything that you think about Grand Design, positive or negative, it's all on me. 100%. If there's something you don't dig, something looks wonky, something looks weird, it's all my fault. Because the editors, like every staff person at Marvel, has been nothing but gracious to my ideas, man. Printing it at an odd size, the same size that the Jobber comic from Mark Waid and, his History of Marvel thing. It's not Marvel Treasury size, it's fucking Eddie P. Hip Hop Family Tree size, man. Let's get that shit straight. First off, they publish it at an odd, different size. The paper I wanted, it was like so important. I thought it was going to be a swerve the whole time. All you hear is bad stuff from creators about their relationships with Marvel. We had a contract. I looked at the contract. I had somebody look at the contract. I knew what I was getting into. The other stuff, the stuff that could have been a swerve, was book size, paper stock, all of that junk. They did it all. Like, I can't complain about any of that stuff. But that didn't help my insecurity when the thing was about to come out there, man. It went over great, man. I had to go into second printings, all of that stuff, man. But now we're coming up to the last issue. So here's where my insecurities lie now, because the last episode of Game of Thrones came out, and all I hear is motherfuckers talking shit, So I'm like bracing myself, and I'm just like, okay, man. People just ain't gonna they're just gonna talk that smack or whatever, man. But that's where my head is at this very moment. It's a very raw moment. It's a very real thing I'm saying. I'm really not going anywhere with this because the few people have seen the book yet, man. So who knows how it's going to shake out. But I think I had this ending in mind basically the entire time. This was the destination that I wanted to take the thing. And to me, it's a satisfying X-Men comic. It's going to be on the stands this coming Wednesday. For whatever reason, I put the onus 100% on distribution. Steve Geppi, man, what's your problem, dude? It was supposed to come out this past Wednesday, and even Marvel thought so. They put all their promo out saying that it was coming out this week. They leaked pages. They did promotion at certain websites and stuff. It's going to be this week. Diamond. The fuck?
It builds the anticipation.
I guess so.
Make the payoff that much sweeter.
I guess so, man. But it feels really good to get this thing completely out of my system. I saw Axel Alonso down at HeroesCon for a couple of minutes. It was really nice to talk to him. He's the guy who brought me into the fold, man. I, famously drew that picture of the X-Men team, tweeted it out, and in a moment of bravado just said, Marvel should let me make whatever kind of X-Men comic I feel like making.
Mondo should make a print of that initial drawing of all the X-Men teams.
Yeah, not bad. I could talk to them about that. I want to do more work for Mondo, and we are talking about that. And I want to thank you guys because I don't have to go to work at Burger King because, like I said on that one Kayfabe weekly shoot, if I can't get rid of 250 copies of the giant X-Men print inside of a day, then I'm quitting comics, you know what I'm saying, man? And of course, it just took a few hours for that baby to go. And I met a lot of people who finally received their prints down there at Heroes. So Mondo is very snappy in getting these things to people in good condition. I've been tagged in a lot of Instagram posts, seeing that sucker on the wall. The best photos are where we have some context. So sometimes you see it on the wall and it looks like it could be an 8 by 10. Let me see a dog in a photo somewhere. Let me see anything so we could see the grandeur.
Hold your baby up in front of it.
Totally. So we could see the grandeur of that stuff, man. But it was cool seeing Axel down there. In every issue of my comic, I put a special thanks out there to Axel because he brought me into the game and he was very, very honest and truthful with every element of the process. We did good business with one another, and I would not have probably done a Marvel thing if it wasn't for him just being such a cool cat, making me feel good about the thing, man. So thanks to Axel. It was cool seeing him out there. Right now, one of the big questions I got down at the festival was what next, and I'm nearing the completion of the first draft of the script for my next thing. It's going to need a lot of heavy lifting to turn this thing into a finished script that I'm comfortable drawing. But you and I are taking a screenwriting class right now, man, to break kayfabe, to just kind of like get a little extra input, some new information to consider. Screenwriting, visual medium, that includes words, even though they're verbal words. And our instructor, she says, first draft is called the fuck it draft. And I'm working on that fuck it draft, and it's really fun because you just an explosion.
Yes.
It's just you vomit on the page, man.
Turn the editor off.
Totally. And you see what you got. What I've been discovering is that I'm just getting to know my characters a little bit more. We did our first class last night, and we were forced to explain kind of the story and everything, and verbalize some of the story beats and shit like that. And when she said, "I think I need a shower after this," and when another lady was like, "I'm so fascinated, but I'm scared to Google that," that's a wrap. That's all I need to hear, man, because they're not necessarily my target demographic, but that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to elicit. Things are moving just fine, man.
Fun class, pretty intense. 3-hour session last night. A lot of information.
I got home right afterward, and I was working on homework till about 2 in the morning. Typed up 8 pages.
Nice.
Worth of material that we're gonna have to go over like the next session. So that's gonna be cool. It's good to have feedback from anyway. I was able to take some instructive stuff from everybody in that class. So maybe that'll be some stuff that comes up in future weeklies. Our instructor has stripes, and she worked on a Netflix series for like 6 years. Maybe we'll do a shoot with her, man. This doesn't have to be relegated to just Cartoonist.
I thought of that too. Yeah, I'm the story I'm workshopping through that program is a sports story, and she let us know she worked on the Allen Iverson 30 for 30. We're both big fans of the 30 for 30s. So yeah, pretty cool. It's funny with the homework. I have a busy weekend, obviously, and I have like a 3-hour window on Saturday when I'm not doing anything. So that's my schedule right now for homework.
We might have to wrap this thing up, man, so you could get the hell out of here and maybe put a little dent in some of that homework, man.
Could be.
Is there anything we left on the table for this week, or should we adjourn until next?
Couple of last bits from Heroes Con. One, I brought back more stuff I think than I've ever brought back from Heroes Con in terms of books people gave me, books I bought, artwork. There's some cool stuff, so we're going to make a video and show off some of that stuff for sure. So look for that in the coming weeks. And then the other piece is I was inspired by seeing people wearing the Kayfabe t-shirts everywhere. I came right home and made a Kayfabe t-shirt first night home. So the first new Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirt design in probably 2 months or so just went up. And it's inspired by the old like iron-on letters. I think everybody used it, punk rock bands. I was inspired by old wrestlers, like I Broke Wahoo's Leg, Greg Valentine's famous t-shirt. But found those fonts, man, and made a Cartoonist Kayfabe Read More Comics shirt. I'm pretty excited by it.
And we're going to have more shirts in the future. Just seeing all those bodies adorning that gear, man, was pretty freaking cool.
And people asking for different shirts. So, I think we'll probably have a few more of those coming out, in the near future, as time permits. I mean, that's always the great equalizer. Busy stretch these couple of weeks for me right now, but there's just so much stuff. I wish there were more hours in the day to get to some of this, but we'll do as much as we can.
I agree, man. I think that is a suitable Heroes Con wrap-up session, man. Let's go get back to work, man. Give these dudes their marching orders before we get the hell out of here.
Read more comics.